What does a world championship speaker do? How does it make them become so successful? And how can you take that information into your business world and adapt your presentation, your speaking, to have much greater impact and influence in the way you connect with your audience? Over the years, I've met and worked with a number of world championship speakers. One of the advantages of belonging to Toastmasters is you get to meet these people. I've looked at what their speeches are about, and I thought, okay, they do inspirational speeches, motivational speeches. I work with business leaders to present business cases. So they're not aspirational, inspirational, or motivational. But actually, there's a few things that you can take from how they create their speech, how they deliver their speech, which will have a massive impact on your speech making, on how you present. I'm going to share with you just 3 elements that I've noticed that have a big impact. The first one is they have a repeatable message throughout the whole of their presentation, so that at the very end of the presentation, everybody knows exactly what that presentation was about and what the key message was. Now that's really crucial. How many times have you sat in a business meeting, somebody's presented for 10 minutes, you've turned to your colleague by the side and you've said, do you know what that was about? I know I've been in that situation when people have presented to me. I've had people come up and they presented and I go, well, I think it's about fertilization, but it could be about medication. And I'm really confused because there's multiple messages and there's no hierarchy of messages. So by and far the easiest is to have one message which you repeat throughout the whole presentation, which emphasizes the point you're trying to make. Now, obviously, as a world championship, they do it skillfully. So just saying, I want you to remember this, I want you to remember this, I want you to remember this, is going to be dull and boring. So think about how you weave it into your content and reinforce your point. So what information do you have that would reinforce your message so that you can then share your message and people can understand the relevance of it? So that's the first one. Second one is world champion speakers always bring personal stories. And this really helps make the speaker relatable and somebody you want to care about. You can do exactly the same when you're doing a business presentation. What stories of projects you've worked on before, clients you've worked with, that you can bring in, which would help your audience understand better what you're talking about. Sometimes we get stuck in this tunnel vision and we have this information and we love giving data and we think if I give you a lot of information, then you're bound to remember something. And that tends to be the opposite. People zone out. I was very guilty of this when I was younger, and when I started presenting, I used to present data and spreadsheets and graphs, and I'd spend hours putting the data in, making the graphs look good, add all these pretty colors, and I'd go and talk about it, and I would just talk about the graph. I didn't even realize how bored people were by it. But if I could have brought in an anecdote, a story, something to help people understand what the graph was about, what the perspectives were, and how using this could have a big difference, I think I would have connected more with the audience. So what stories do you have that you can bring into your presentations? And the third element is about seeking feedback. Now, I know, having spoken to lots of world champions and entered into a number of competitions, the more you can go out, present, have feedback from your audience about what worked, what didn't work, and then adapt, tweak, change, and go again, has a massive impact on your speech. I remember I was competing in the humorous speaking contest, and I had this wonderful joke. I worked it out, I timed it, I did everything I needed to. And I remember second time I presented to a club, I got crickets. Exactly that. I got nothing at all. And I happened to say something later on which was off the top of my head, and they burst out laughing. And I'm going, hang on, my joke I'd spent ages working on, you didn't laugh at, yet something which I did spontaneously, you laughed at. And I didn't want to get rid of that joke because I'd spent ages crafting it, but clearly it wasn't relevant to the story, or maybe it just wasn't funny. So I had to get rid of that and bring in that impromptu one. So getting feedback there was really important to me. So think about what feedback you can get before you go live with your presentation. Now, let's be honest here. World champions and anybody who's entering into a speaking competition are constantly out there presenting, tweaking, adapting, seeking feedback. That's what they're doing all the time. In a business presentation, we can't do that. We might have a one-off presentation on a project update or speaking to a client or pitching for business. We don't get 5, 6, 7 chances to pitch to a business. So what can you do beforehand? Where can you go where you can get some feedback, maybe once or twice, that would give you some insight into what your presentation's about, how well it lands, and what the audience takes away from it. Now, I use AI. I find AI is really useful. I will record a video like this. I will put that transcript into AI and I will ask it multiple questions. What's the key message? What structure? How does it flow? What can I do differently? And I'll make sure I give it very specific prompts about who I'm speaking to, what the purpose is, and then the more targeted my questions are, the better response I get. And then I can adapt and change depending on what AI comes up with. And so that's a very easy and surprisingly quick way. Now that you've got ChatGPT 5, it's very fast at doing it. And I found it really powerful and actually a lot more accurate than some of the previous versions of ChatGPT. So if you're going to do a presentation, there are the 3 things I would say you bring in. One is have a repeatable message, a message which people can remember. So that if anybody turns to another member in the audience, they say, do you know what Mark was speaking about now? Very clearly, yep, we know exactly what he was speaking about. 2, bring in some stories about yourself, which are relatable and relevant to the topic. If you think about a story helps the other person understand better what you're trying to share. And the final one is go out and get feedback. However you can do that. If you can do it in front of your team, do that. If you use AI, do that. Use a combination. But getting that feedback is key. And then go out there and have some fun. One thing I have noticed as well is they really enjoy presenting. These world champion speakers or people who want to become world champions, they look like they're enjoying themselves. So go and enjoy yourself. You've put the work in, get the recognition for what you've done. And I'd love to hear how you get on, which one of the 3 tips you've taken on board, and what difference is made, what impact is made to your presenting.